TfL told me this casually the other day as though I knew it already. Crime on the tube has fallen by 20%, and we now have the safest tube network in the whole of Europe. And I'm very proud of that. And I know it can get crowded on the tube sometimes, and I know that it's hot, but it is utterly crucial that we maintain the investment at the current neo-Victorian levels that we are, because in spite of the recession, we are carrying record numbers of people on both the buses and the tubes, and we need new track, new trains, new signalling, and air conditioning. And let me assure you, we are not just spending this money for the hell of it. In the last 3 or so years, as I say, to pick a period entirely at random, we have saved £2 billion from TfL's budgets, and you want to see the physical results of this. We have had a 25% reduction in the number of directors in TfL. We have vacated and flogged 23 buildings across London, with an overall reduction in desks of 4,232 desks gone. And we have disposed of those desks. So as you see, if you see desks for sale up the Holloway Road, they very likely come from TfL. We have flogged those desks and those offices, and we've got rid of them. We disposed of those executive washrooms because we've turned the revenue into machines and equipment that move you faster and more comfortably around London. Let me tell you, thanks to the whipping that we've been giving it, figuratively speaking, the Victoria line is now moving 3 miles an hour faster than it was 3 years ago. The Jubilee, it's absolutely true, it's partly because it's got new trains, obviously. The Jubilee line now has trains arriving once every 2 minutes or less, and thanks to the common sense of this coalition government and the settlement that we got last year, we not only have the tube upgrades, we have Crossrail and Thameslink, which is going to be as fantastic as Crossrail, the north-south Crossrail, and I can tell you, Conference, that I will not allow that investment and these vital improvements to be jeopardised for any short-term political gain. And this morning I went to a magnificent Lucchini factory here in Manchester, where even now they are manufacturing thousands of wheels for our new S-stock air-conditioned rolling stock. And I talked to some of the 187 workforce in the Lucchini factory in Manchester, whose jobs are assured by continuing investment in London's transport infrastructure. And so I say to my friends in the Treasury, not all of whom I see here today, I say to my friend, I say to Dave, I can see Dave there. I say straight to Dave. You know, FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt offered a New Deal. I give you the wheel deal. You help us to invest in transport infrastructure, and we in London will supply the locomotive of the UK economy. Now, if we can keep cutting crime and keep improving transport, if we can give London business the conditions that it needs, then I believe that business will help to generate the jobs to get our people through this downturn. And there's one overarching philosophy behind everything that we do in City Hall, and it can be traced, and some veterans of my speech last night may have heard this already, never mind. It can be traced to a saying of Mahatma Gandhi, who prophesied in 1948 that the future of India lay in its 700,000 villages. And as anybody who's been to India lately can testify, has anybody been to India lately? You all have, of course you have. We can testify that, unfortunately, Mahatma Gandhi was almost completely wrong. Because the future of India lies patently in its cities. There's a massive urbanization taking place in India. And I'm afraid it is unromantic but true that the future of the world lies in cities. 50% of the planet now lives in cities. When I pop my clogs, it'll be about 80 or 90%. But Gandhi was, of course, right in a deeper sense, wasn't he? About what's in people's hearts. Because people yearn for the village, don't they? They yearn for the memory of that Eden from which we've all been expelled. And so everything we do in City Hall is about putting the village back into the city. And we are on target to build a record 50,000 affordable homes, and we'll do even more over the next 4 years, but we're also insisting on homes that are big enough for families with children, and rooms, by the way, that are big enough for human beings rather than hobbits, because you know, none of us are getting, as you may have noticed, none of us are getting any smaller. And by this time by this time next year, this mayoralty, City Hall, we will have planted, partly by getting rid of crazy communist free sheets, we will have planted 50,000 trees, 50,000 trees in London, including 10,000 street trees. And we're not only protecting back gardens from development and consecrating green space in London, but thanks to the work of Rosie Boycott, we have found 1,250 growing spaces in some of the peculiar, unloved bits of waste ground in London, where 38,000, quite incredible figure, 38,000 people have been growing food crops of one kind or another, which is apparently a very good antidote to depression and also a good occupation for the idle hands of young people. And if you want to take part in that kind of thing, then join Team London. Get hold of Rosie and join Team London. And that is what I mean by putting the village back into the city. And there's nothing more villagey, is there, than the sight of someone sailing elegantly past, bolt upright, on one of those big blue burly bicycles. And the bikes are going west, they're going east, and they'll soon, like some great tank movement, they're gathering themselves for the surge north and south. And from next year, you'll be able to go by hire bike from Canary Wharf to Hammersmith, from Camden Town to Clapham. And I have to confess that the number of thefts has risen since I last talked to you, conference. I can't. We believe in absolute transparency about our statistics. There are now 18 missing as opposed to 8 last year. But we have every confidence we will capture them, we will punish the culprits, and we will take away their right to free travel. But it is still the case. It is still the case that we have had about 2,000 or more, 2,000 fewer than were nicked in the same period in another rival European jurisdiction, which I will not embarrass by mentioning by name. And I guess how many, but here's an interesting statistic for you to take away. Guess how many in the recent disturbances were looted by the looters? Guess how many anybody care to hazard a guess? How many bikes the looters looted? The answer is absolutely correct. The answer is not 3, it is not 10, it is none. And I don't really know whether we should be vaguely flattered or insulted by that decision. But the reality is there was virtually only one thing safer than a bike hire stand in London, and that was, of course, a bookshop during the looters. But if as I hope, these encouraging figures show, some dim respect for common property, something that's meant for everybody, which is what I think it does show. So I'm the mayor, and I'm entitled to take that view. If that's what it shows, that people understand the value of something that is there for everybody, and they understand the importance of sharing it, then that is what I mean by putting the village back into the city. And that's why you would so often see, by the way, Barbara Windsor, who does a wonderful job for us through Team London, encouraging people to have street parties or fetes or whatever else, because all the evidence is that where people know each other by their first names, crime comes down. And if people know each other by their first names, they don't raid the local shop, ladies and gentlemen. That is what I mean by putting the village back into the city. And if we can get all that right, and I'm sure that we can, and bring crime down, keep putting the investment in our transport infrastructure, invest in the skills of young people, get them the apprenticeships that they deserve, put the village back in the city, get the right tax and regulatory framework, and I will say no more than that, then British enterprise will do the rest.